Corvus Corax's story begins on the desolate moon of Lycaeus, orbiting the forge world of Kiovar. Cast there by the powers of chaos, he was discovered by the enslaved miners of Lycaeus, who were oppressed by the tech guilds of Kiovar. Raised among these downtrodden people, Corax grew up learning the values of freedom and justice. His rapid maturation and natural leadership abilities inspired the miners to believe that he was destined to lead them to liberation. With his tactical genius, he organized a rebellion, using sabotage and guerrilla warfare to overthrow the tyrannical rule of the guilds. The moon was renamed Deliverance, marking their victory. Following this momentous rebellion, the Emperor arrived on Deliverance, seemingly summoned by Corax's triumph. The reunion was quiet but profound. The Emperor spoke with Corax for a day and a night, though the details of their conversation remain a mystery. What is known is that Corax accepted his place as the Primarch of the Raven Guard, on the condition that the Emperor help bring lasting peace to Kiovar. With the Emperor's support, the Adeptus Mechanicus brought Kiovar into compliance, and the Black Tower that had once oppressed the people of Deliverance became the Raven Spire, the Raven Guard's fortress monastery. This reunion with the Emperor cemented Corax's role as a leader committed to the ideals of freedom and justice. Unlike some of his more brutal or conquest-driven brothers, Corax's mission was always about liberation, not domination. His formative years on Deliverance, fighting for the oppressed, would deeply influence his leadership of the 19th Legion and his approach to warfare and governance. During the Great Crusade, Corax led the Raven Guard to numerous victories across the galaxy. Under his command, the 19th Legion perfected the arts of infiltration, sabotage, and guerrilla warfare. Corax believed that war should be precise and efficient, with minimal loss of life. This philosophy set the Raven Guard apart from other legions that favored brute force. Their successes in campaigns, such as the Carinae Retribution, showcased their ability to liberate oppressed worlds while avoiding unnecessary bloodshed, earning the Raven Guard a reputation as a highly strategic and ethical force. Corax's relationships with his fellow Primarchs were complex. His emphasis on stealth and precision often clashed with the more direct and aggressive approaches of his brothers. He had a particularly strained relationship with Horus, especially after their disagreement during the Battle of Gate 42, where Corax's proposed strategy of deception was overruled in favor of a frontal assault. The resulting heavy losses left Corax bitter and distrustful of Horus, setting the stage for deeper divisions during the Horus Heresy. Despite this tension, Corax formed bonds with certain brothers, particularly those who valued strategy over sheer violence. However, his rivalry with Konrad Curze, the Night Hunter, was one of deep philosophical opposition. Both were masters of fear and psychological warfare, but where Curze embraced terror and cruelty, Corax fought for justice and liberation. Their frequent comparison drove a wedge between them, with Corax determined to distance his methods from Curze's sadistic tendencies. The Raven Guard's greatest achievements during the Great Crusade were marked by their ability to bring worlds into compliance without resorting to mass slaughter. They became known for their use of advanced technology, such as the Whisper Cutter, and their innovative tactics, which allowed them to strike at key points and disappear without a trace. Under Corax's leadership, the Raven Guard became one of the most feared and respected legions in the Emperor's service. The Horus Heresy was a pivotal event in Corax's life, where the Raven Guard suffered some of the heaviest losses of any legion. Corax stood alongside his fellow loyalist Primarchs during the infamous Drop Site Massacre on Isvan V, leading his forces into what they believed would be a decisive strike against Horus. Instead, they were betrayed. The Raven Guard, along with the Salamanders and Iron Hands, were ambushed by the traitor legions, leading to catastrophic losses for the Loyalists. Corax himself fought valiantly, even engaging Lorgar in personal combat, but was forced to retreat when Konrad Curze intervened. The massacre devastated the Raven Guard, reducing them to a fraction of their original strength. Corax and his surviving warriors were forced to flee into the wilderness of Istvan V, where they waged a guerrilla war against the traitor forces for weeks. Eventually, Corax was rescued by a small fleet led by Captain Bran Nev and returned to Deliverance. The defeat weighed heavily on him, and Corax was desperate to rebuild his legion quickly to continue the fight against Horus. Upon returning to Deliverance, Corax sought the Emperor's guidance. The Emperor, through a psychic connection, revealed to Corax the location of ancient gene seed technology that had been used to create the Primarchs themselves. Using this knowledge, Corax accelerated the creation of new Raven Guard Astartes, producing a new generation of warriors known as Raptors. However, the process was sabotaged by the Alpha Legion, resulting in horrific mutation among many of the new recruits. Corax was forced to euthanize his own creations, a failure that haunted him deeply and added to the already immense burden of the heresy. After the fall of Horus and the end of the Horus Heresy, Corax's heart was filled with guilt and despair. His legion had been shattered, and his desperate attempts to rebuild it had only led to monstrous mutations. Burdened by the memory of the corrupted Astartes he had created, Corax withdrew to the Raven Spire and spent a year in isolation, seeking absolution from the Emperor. When he emerged, he declared that he would leave Deliverance, vowing to seek penance for his failures in the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Corax's journey took him into the Eye of Terror, where he pursued the traitorous Primarchs who had betrayed the Emperor. His primary target was Lorgar, the architect of much of the heresy's spiritual corruption. On the demon world of Sycharis, Corax confronted Lorgar in a titanic battle. Twisted by the powers of the warp, Corax had become a creature of living shadows, able to blend into darkness and strike with lethal precision. Despite Lorgar's ascension to daemonhood, Corax overpowered him, forcing the traitor to retreat into the warp. This pursuit of Lorgar was symbolic of Corax's unyielding quest for justice and revenge, even as he himself became consumed by the shadows. His transformation into a being of darkness mirrored the inner turmoil that had haunted him since the Drop Site Massacre. Corax had once been a liberator, but now he was a figure of vengeance, dedicated to hunting down the traitors who had destroyed the Emperor's dream. Despite his exile, Corax's legacy lived on the Raven Guard and their successors. His emphasis on stealth, precision, and the liberation of the oppressed continued to shape the philosophy of the Legion. Though Corax was no longer present to lead them, his ideals remained a guiding force. His final words, before disappearing into the warp, "Nevermore," echo as a testament to the tragic fall of a Primarch who had once been a beacon of freedom and justice.